Yeah, I just want to bridge the gap because again, you guys are not far off. So what Sergio's saying is that, and correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, Sergio, is that hey, listen, ideal world marriage, great idea. I would support it, and I think we should push legislation. We should be political in order to make laws better and blah 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 and blah blah and make men better. However, at this current point in time, the way things stand, I think for the majority of men, marriage is a dangerous proposition. Versus what Andrew is saying is like, well, no, I still think that marriage is even the way things stand now. I agree with you that things could be better and we should push for that. But even the way things stand right now, marriage is a good idea for the majority of men. That's the disagreement. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong about your position.
It's a good idea for the majority. It's a good idea for almost every man I can think of.
Exactly.
As long as it's to a virtuous woman. But to kind of Sergio's point, I understand that there are less and less virtuous women to choose from. I'm not disputing that that's true, but kind of the crux of my disagreement at this point is that it seems like Sergio agrees with all of my value structures, agrees with the prescriptions that I'm after and things like this. But on the other hand, is also preaching towards men to not get married. He's telling them, in fact, he told me in DMs specifically, I want no men to get married ever. And when questioned here, he says it's because we're on strike. Well, no, Sergio, you don't go on fucking strike. You go out and you change the society like the leftists did that fucked this whole thing up to begin with, like the progressive communists did that fucked it all up to begin with. You don't go on strike and just let them continue their bullshit, man.
Wait, Sergio, were you being hyperbolic or do you actually feel that no man should get married?
I think that there's always going to be beta men that are going to get married, so we can't stop all men. But if I could tell all men to stop doing it right now until we get some real change going, oh yeah, I would definitely say all men just stop right now until we get some real change going. Because right
that's
now,
insane. That's insane.
Let me try to bridge the gap. But it sounded like earlier you were agreeing with Andrew that hey, if you are one of those rare guys who meets a really virtuous woman, I think for you a big metric is body count, who's a virgin, she has all the values that you were in favor of.
Low body, bro, just low body count is good enough. It doesn't even need. I teach guys how to find a girl with a low body count. I think that you can. I believe I found a unicorn. I believe I have a formula to find unicorns. Most guys don't, though. Most guys use dating apps. Most guys go to church. Most guys go and just find women at the worst places possible.
Church
and when
is the worst place to find women.
Yes, I think that the church is one of the worst places because you will find those born-again virgins, those women 30, 40, and 50 body counts that think I actually see them all the time come on my show, and I see them go to church on Sunday, and then they're drinking Sunday night and Saturday night. They were out the night before. These women are not virtuous women. They're not good moral women, but they sit there and they act like they are because they go to church. They go to church here in Dallas called I think it's called Social House, and it's literally like a party, bro. It's literally like a fucking club in there. And
this is a good time for me to bring up the super chat. I was going to bring it up later, but this dude actually said something similar to what you were saying. I'll just put that out there and leave it at that. Okay, anyway, keep going, Sergio.
No, I lost track. But yeah, I was just saying that the women, they're not the same at those churches, man. Like I used to go to a non-denominational. The thing is, Andrew, I used to be a strong Christian when I was like 13 years old. I used to go to a non-denominational.
We need to get you back to that.
I want to go back to church. I want to go help the church become more patriarchal. I do agree. The thing is, I'm a very
based ass Sergio here. Sergio.
Yeah, DJ, don't listen to him.
Yeah, no, don't listen. The devil on your shoulder needs to go away. Okay,
the angel needs to go away. Don't listen to the angel.
Yes. Okay. So I could at some of these points again. I could make some concessions here for you, Sergio. I do think that especially Protestant churches have become, and like the chatter says, chatter makes a good point. This is everywhere, right? Feminism has infiltrated all churches everywhere. Finding virtuous women is tough, but if you do find a virtuous woman, you do realize we have to procreate, right? And if you're giving men advice to procreate outside of marriage, you're necessarily advocating for bad outcomes.
I don't want them to do it. Mine was an accident. I didn't plan to have my daughter.
How are we going to sustain humanity, bro? If nobody gets married and has kids, how are you going to sustain humanity, Sergio?
I'm really scared of that right now. That's my biggest fear in society is that we're not having kids. So I would love for us to change the laws. But if you're a guy that happens
to be advocating this now,
like I'm in, I will help you out and get through that.
Do you understand that you have you have a really bad position here? So you're saying, I don't want any men to get married whatsoever, leading to a worse outcome for a child. Yet at the same time, you say we have to have the next generation of children. right? So you're setting the next generation of children up necessarily to have bad outcomes. Don't you understand how don't you understand that's bad?
Yeah, I got a question though. Okay. I made a mistake. I got a girl knocked up, okay? This was our first date. I didn't know her that well. It's very stupid, very big mistake, right? Everybody would say worst way that you could ever do it, right? I tried to make it work. I stayed with her for a year. I was not in love. I did not want to have sex. I did not want to do certain things. I rather had sex with other girls. I did not want to be with this woman for the rest of my life. Was it better for me to take my the mother of my daughter serious and wife her and stay with her and then do what a lot of Christian men do, which is cheat, use porn, use hookers? Or do I tell her the truth? Whereas, hey, I don't fully love you. I don't really enjoy having sex all the time with you. I think it would be better for us to break up, and you can find a man that truly loves you and truly wants to be with you and only have sex with you. And then I can go find a girl that I truly want to be with more. What is better? What is better? Us to stay together?
Wait.
Don't want to be with each other?
Hang on. I just got to ask. Did you guys have plans to get married?
No, that's why I'm asking. If an accident happens, what is somebody supposed to do who has a bad situation like
well,
me?
First of all, come on. It's not an accident. You didn't accidentally fuck the chick. Okay. That was not an accident. Let's not shirk off our responsibility. You didn't trip, fall, and slip into her vagina, bro.
Well, that happens sometimes.
Can we acknowledge that you didn't?
So there's this thing called kink play, bro, where like people like to ejaculate into things and then buy a plan B the next day because it's just like, oh yeah, let's take the risk. Yeah, it's fun.
Yeah, and that was not your situation, right? That was not your situation. You didn't accidentally.
What is my situation? I bought the plan B and it didn't work. Like God had better plans for me. God said you need to have this child, and I had a child. Plan B did not work.
It did not
work.
So wait a second. Yeah,
so that's why I like to say is, maybe I like to make the joke of, no, she probably spent the money on an eighth and hot Cheetos, but no, I saw her take it. Okay, so like
stop. So backing up. Wait a second. You had sex with a chick, okay, and your big-brained plan was to give her plan B the next day because it makes you come better to know that because it's kinkier.
I'm trying to explain to you how hedonistic this world is today, bro. So guys like me that like
hedonistic you are. Yes. You based your entire ideology on the fact that you're into some kind of kink play with Plan B, and now you tell all men that they shouldn't get married. You don't think that's a little bit fucking insane?
No, I'm just saying that when things happen, I'm just saying that when bad things happen and they don't go the way that you planned them. Look, I've done this. A lot of guys, okay, who sleep around and have a lot of girls, I'm going to be honest with you, bro. Sometimes they ejaculate in the women and then just buy a plan B after.
Yeah, so they probably shouldn't do that then. That's probably not a good idea.
I 1,000% agree with you. But what I'm saying is that when those bad things happen, somebody needs to be able to help those people when those things happen.
Yeah, so I agree with that too. Usually that would be religion, church, family units, for, places like this where you would go to for support.
Those things don't have the best prescriptions.
I agree. Listen, again, I can even agree with that. But optimally, those would be the support mechanisms that you would turn to. I definitely wouldn't be turning to a support system that said, well, hey, look, bro, I understand because I'm also into kink play and I tried this plan B bullshit one time because it made me come harder and it didn't fucking work. I wouldn't go to that guy for advice. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I'm just explaining to you how I was that guy, bro. Like I lived in my city and I was that guy that did a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah, that's but listen, man, like as we're looking at, you shouldn't make a societal prescription that every man should get married, even to virtuous women, in order to teach them a lesson because you were in plan B kink play mode. That's just fucking nuts, dude.
There's a lot of women, though, that get pregnant through the same exact method that I just said, or something similar to that, to a guy that they never met.
It comes inside of them. Yes, they get pregnant the same way every time. It's crazy, isn't it? It's almost like we know how to prevent this 100% of the time, isn't it?
Yeah, you come on their face. I get it.
It's fucking ridiculous. It's so ridiculous, man.
When these bad things happen, what's crazy is that, like, in the Christian world, though, when this type of shit happens, it's just like, oh, you're horrible. You should have never done that. Now you just need to stop having sex and not do anything bad. But it's just like, dude, some people are already down
your fucking lesson. Like, what do you need to do to learn your fucking lesson, man?
What do you mean? I have a great
how dare those Christians? Well, wait, how dare those Christians
from these
how
things?
dare those Christians say to you, well, that was fucking stupid. You know, you probably shouldn't be out fucking a bunch of chicks or you might knock another one up. And you're like,
bro,
damn those Christians and their stupid bullshit telling us not to do all this stuff that ruined our lives.
Well, like, bro, you don't understand. I really want to be the next Future. I really want to be the next Nick Cannon. And the only way I'm going to get that by just leaning into that shit, bro. I gotta just lean into it.
You gotta take your foot, I think, off the gas pedal a little bit here, man, and maybe reevaluate your priorities slightly. So as you're looking at this, try to understand you can't walk around with a performative contradiction like, I want the best outcomes for children, but men shouldn't get married, because that's going to lead to the worst outcome for children. We're going to have children. We need them in society. Okay. So maybe we can just take a more mild approach. Let's try this. Okay. Just instead of saying no men should get married ever, say that men should get married to virtuous women. Virtuous women. Can we just agree on that? And then I'll call the debate good. We'll call it good.
Yeah, I will say that for now on, guys, you can get married, but she needs to be a unicorn. Yes,
no,
I will
virtuous. There are virtuous women, and they're not unicorns. Didn't you say in the intro that your two moms were virtuous women?
Yeah, they were great 40 years ago. Though the times are different now. The times are not the same. We do not have.
But you know, were your two moms always virtuous women?
I don't know what they were like in their younger years, but they were virtuous as mothers.
They were virtuous as mothers, but maybe not in their beginning years. So it's like, no,
I'm saying I have no idea. I didn't see them when they were young.
There's still there are still virtuous women. They're not unicorns. And I think that's even saying that is ridiculous. And saying, hey, it's out of reach for everybody to find a virtuous woman. I don't even have a problem with you saying it's rare. Fine. You can even say it's rare, but it's not unicorn rare.
I just want to know where people go to find this, though. Like, I honestly want to know.
Let me pose this question real quick to both of you, because I think it's going to stimulate discussion. What percentage of women in the United States do you think are virtuous? Just a ballpark. You don't have to like 21.7%. Just a ballpark. What do you think it is? 1%?
No, one woman. My wife.
Okay. Well, no, but like, okay, that's funny. But like, what's the real answer? What do you think? What do you think it is?
I have no idea. If I were to give a guess on it, how many women wanted to kind of follow virtues, they would have to probably come from intact families for the most part and have, but even then there's a lot of failure. I would say probably very low, very, very low. Maybe 20, 15%, something very low.
Okay. That's actually way higher than I thought you were going to say when you said very low. Okay.
I'd say, well, if I mean women who follow serious virtues, I think it's low. It's not taught to them. And there's no real expectation. There's no expectation for women to be virtuous, but there is still some societal expectation for men to be virtuous. In other words, I can't, even though you and I have completely different worldviews, Alex, no man would find it appropriate for me to stab you in the back, right? For me to do some fucked up shit to you. They'd say that's not virtuous. Whether they're a degen or they're a Christian, they'd both agree that that's bad. You know what I mean? So I just feel like there's more pressure on men still to be virtuous. And I do agree that we need to do something in order to start moving the Overton window so that we can have virtuous women. I just don't think that the answer is to say never get married even to a virtuous woman. And the other thing is I think that women can become virtuous over time. You might, you know what I mean? You might get married young and you might have troubles in your relationship. But if there's no infidelity and there's no abuse and things like that, virtue can come over time and work and effort. And I think that that's necessary to acknowledge too. Is society fucked up? Yes, it's fucked up. I agree with you guys on all those descriptors. But when it comes to prescription, I want men to be taking action at the political level and beyond in order to move men towards that process of let's start with no fault divorce and let's start with getting rid of these things. And let's not give a counter message that men getting married is bad, even if it's to a virtuous woman, because we need to stand in solidarity to make these bitches behave. They're not going to behave. There's too many simps, too many fucking coomers, too many pieces of shit. You have to literally collect the vibes and begin to legislate against porn and legislate against no-fault divorce and legislate against these things. That's what has to happen. There's no other choice.
Okay, let me flip the question to Sergio. What percentage of women do you think are virtuous?
Depends what we're defining as virtuous, but if it's like low body count, like not sleeping around, like
Oh,
then.
I think it's probably more to it than that, right? Like being
Yeah, well, I
honest.
mean, all the other things, but one of the big ones today, like I would say the big problem that a lot of guys are bothered by is the body count thing, because that means that she has no, like, she doesn't really, she doesn't have pride in herself, like, she doesn't respect herself. So I think
I,
a lot, maybe she has low self esteem. So a lot of guys, I think, are going to attach to that. And if that's the case, I think 5%. I think 5% of women are actually virtuous, and like the society is really pushing down the throat of 95% of women that you can sleep around, you can do all this stuff, and you'll be fine. If we don't care about body count, I
mean,
agree with him that maybe
look, that's true. He's like, he's right.
20%.
He's right about a lot of what he just said. I don't think that we find any disagreement there. In fact, I'm willing to call it good without beating him up about the Head and Shoulders any more than I already have, with just this one little tiny modification that he made, which is to say, if there are virtuous women, yes, of course, many should get married to them, and we do need to have children. You know, like that is an imperative, that we do need to do that.
What I'm worried about is the fact that guys make way less money now. Women are out earning men in major cities, in some major cities.
That's
You know, they
changing.
graduate at 60.
Listen,
At 60.
that's changing. That's changing.
Okay, well, but graduating from college though, 60-40.
Yeah, but that's good because men are getting into trades.
What you said is not true. I actually just literally, I'm going to release this video in a few days. I did a street interview where I went up to couples, asked them who makes more money. 95% of the time, the guy was making more money.
Yeah. So what's happened
is I would agree that that is the truth. But what I'm saying is that that's why guys aren't getting into relationships, and that's why guys aren't getting married today, is because they're financially insecure. A lot of men cannot think about marriage or making families and stuff when they're financially not doing good.
Yeah, but Sergio, listen. Women have always done better in academics than men. Always.
Yeah,
all throughout history. They've always done better academically than men have. They've always done better in college. They've always done better in public school because the rules favor them. So they've always done better in those categories. However, this kind of pay gap that you were seeing is closing very quickly with trades. Men are getting into trades, which is great. That's fantastic because a good tradesman can make more money than a medical doctor if they have the right trade. And you are seeing that gap close very, very quickly. So even if women walk away with more education, first of all, they're not even walking away with more education. They're walking away with a useless fucking degree. Men are walking away being educated in a trade, and that trade requires as much education, if not more, over time to become highly skilled at it. So no, the gap is beginning to close. But not only that, we should incentivize that even more. We should incentivize men to get into trades even more. So kind of as I'm looking at this whole holistic picture, I think that overall you have probably a pretty good message if you could mix some morals in with it and stop being such a fucking hedonist, man. And fucking chicks and handing them plan B and hoping it works itself out, right? Like, stop that shit.
I support that. But yeah, I mean, just real quickly, I'll say this. Like, we interviewed like at least several dozen couples. Over 90% of the time, the guy made more money than the girl. It was
also, remember, you're in Miami though, bro. Like if I talk to girls here in my city, a lot of my homegirls, because I'm friends with a lot of girls that are bottle girls, stuff like that. A lot of them are doing better than their boyfriends. They got really, really nice, sexy boyfriends, and they are, you know, the ones that make most of the money in their relationship. So I think it depends really what city you're going to, the type of people that you're talking to. It depends if they want the frame in the relationship or not. I don't know. Like that's a really hard one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I've never done this in another city, so I guess I don't know. All right, let's do a quick closing statement. Then I wrote down several questions for both of you, and then let's do a open panel. So, let's go. We'll go like 2-minute closing statement, 2-3 minute. I think since Sergio, you went first, then it makes more sense for Andrew to go first. I believe that's generally how they do it. So give your closing statement, then Sergio will give his, and then we'll get into the next part of the show.
So first, Alex, as always, thank you very much for having me on your channel. I really appreciate it. And to all of Alex's audience, even if you hate my guts, thank you for suffering through another one of my debates. I appreciate that very much. Over to my opponent, Sergio. You deserved every bit of the ass kicking you got tonight because essentially what you're saying is cognitive dissonance, and you need to really address this point. But I think that just even with that one shift, it'll maybe take you down the road of looking towards more viable solutions than just telling fucking skanks to stop spreading their legs all over town. I really do. So I would kind of focus on that. And then kind of the descriptors, I don't see any problem with, but start focusing on the prescriptors. What are we going to do about this shit? Because the hour is late and time is limited. and you only have X amount of time between generations. And I'd like to see, even though the Zoomers are going to be all fucked up, as we know, maybe hopefully the generation after them won't be. And this is due to an installation of values. And we're going to have to at least start legislating some kind of values, or we're not going to have any fucking values. So that's kind of my closing. And to my debate opponent, thank you so much for coming out tonight as well and having this conversation. I appreciate it.
Sergio, you're up.
No, thank you, Alex, bro. I really love the opportunity to get to come on here, bro. I really appreciate it a lot. Andrew, great opponent, bro. I love all your videos. Honestly, I look up to you a lot. I think that you're a killer out there, and I've actually used some of your talking points because I think that they are so powerful. So no, I really appreciate just having this debate with you, bro. It was great. I need to get better at all these things, so I'm happy that I even had this opportunity. At the end of the day, the big thing that I want to say is, I want everybody to understand, if you've ever watched my show before, I give biblical prescriptions very, very, very often, especially when it comes to marriage and relationships, because there is nothing better than the prescriptions that are in Ephesians or in Corinthians. There's nothing that tops them sometimes. So yeah, I really do like to stick by those prescriptions. I'm going to continue to do that. For men though, yes, I might change it up a little bit. I'm going to tell guys that they need to be good and not cheat on their girls and be good men in their relationships, like I do in my current relationship. I don't believe in me going and sleeping around or spinning plates or having side chicks or anything like that. So I'm going to continue, doing good relationships, because I believe that's what we need. I mean, if marriage is really hard for us right now, we need to at least be in fucking relationships, the way I see it, because if we don't come together and at least team up, we're definitely not going to save enough money or buy homes or do any of the things that we really need to do if we're stuck single, like the powers that be want us to be. The powers that be really want y'all to be single, because that's how they're going to profit the most. So yes, I just want everybody to come together. I want everybody that's Andrew's age or older. Andrew, how old are you real quick?
39.
39. I want anybody in that generation, Gen X or boomers. I just hope they get their head out.
That would be a millennial, by the way.
Oh, you're a millennial? That's dope. So you're like me. Oh, well, I didn't know that would make you a millennial. But for Gen X and boomers, or just people that are older, I'm 32, so just older than me. Honestly, I'm really disappointed. The world is the way it is because the oldest generation of men didn't fucking do anything. They let all this fucking shit happen. They just sat around and wanted to profit and pillage off of the younger women and younger men and make money off all this hedonistic shit. So fuck all the older guys. I'm pretty ageist sometimes, because I think that we wouldn't even be in the situation if it wasn't for that. But no, I really hope all the older men, stand up and start doing stuff like Andrew and actually trying to push for things to change. Because if we don't have older men that actually try to do anything like this, we're definitely not going to move the needle. We're definitely not going to change any laws. We're definitely not going to have any change in the fucking at all. So yeah, I would just, that's all I have to say. I really appreciate you though, Andrew. You're a great you're like an awesome person to go against.
Andrew's like, how the fuck did I become an older man?
Yeah, well, I would like to get one clip just for my channel, if you don't mind. Nothing big, but from both of you. Can you say happy birthday, Melaforta?
What?
Melaforta.
Happy birthday, Melaforta.
Happy birthday, Melaforta.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that.
So anyway, I wrote down a few fairly challenging questions for both of you guys, and then we'll open up the panel. It's not too many. So here's the first question. This one is for both of you. What is the body count cutoff for a serious relationship if everything else is perfect about the girl? So, meaning like she seems like she's a really great girl, like no red flags, purely green flags, super supportive, super loving, everything you want in a relationship. What is the most in a hypothetical that her body count could be before you would consider being in a serious relationship with her? Let's start off with you, Sergio.
So I like to say that a guy should have 3 times the girl. So if she has a 5, I think he needs to have around 15. And the reason why is because of social calibration. A woman from the age of 16 or even say 13 up to 18 or 20 is going to have way more opportunities of men coming up to them, pursuing them, talking to them, teaching them social calibration to the point where they're very used to dealing with men, how to subliminally talk, how to move, how to do everything. And so a girl, since has higher social calibration at a younger age usually, or with fewer partners or, with fewer people, I think a guy should triple that. If he does that.
So if a guy has a body count of like 300, then a girl with 100 is fine.
No, I still, so like I have a strong prescription of under 20 is like Like, I don't think, because the stats show over 20 is so bad, I think over 10 is really bad. I think over 5 is really bad. But the bottom line is you're really going to get lapse rate on you, say, if she has 10 and you have 10. Or if she has 20 and you have 20. I think that her experience and her social calibration is going to be higher than that man. So to just have an insurance, to just have a little, for just in case, he should try to triple her just so it's more likely to be in his frame. I think the relationships are always in the woman's frame if she has a higher body count usually.
But up to 10, right? Not past 10.
Yeah, I really don't want guys to go over 10, honestly. Like 5, honestly, is the best. But how many guys are going to find a girl with less than 5? Probably none. You might be able to
actually, 5 is the average body count of women in America. So it's actually a lot more common than you would think. But what if hypothetically speaking, that guy, he worked in sales or some job that forces him to constantly socialize, and his social skills were top notch. He did he was a presenter, he did presentations all the time, he's an actor, whatever, and his social calibration was like way higher than the average girl. In that situation, would then it be different? You don't need the 3-to-1 rule?
Yeah, probably not, because he's more socially calibrated. I'm saying this in general for most guys that aren't socially calibrated today, which is most of the young under 25 guys. I think they all have very low social calibration.
Okay, so your number. Okay, gotcha. Andrew, where do you stand on that? Do you even have a number?
Yeah, so optimally, 1 second, by the way. Hang on. This will only take.
Andrew's on Pornhub.
Oh, he's getting his coffee, bro.
Yeah, I was looking at some Plan B kinks over on Pornhub. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. Anyway, so the question of body count is complicated. I'll agree with that. Optimally, I think that the correct body count for men and women is 0 for marriage. That's what I would advocate for.
But Andrew, we're talking about like a hard cutoff.
I know. I'm gonna talk about both. Okay, so let me qualify it with this. Okay. Once the sanctity, though, of this is broken, once the virginity is boom or bust for either the man or the woman, that virtue of chastity is essentially gone at that point. From there, none of us are perfect. People are going to fuck up. Kids have to, like, we all know that this shit does happen. Okay, but I would still look more importantly for women who are virtuous, who have stopped doing the skanking around, slutting around, things like this. Though I understand that there is an intuition from men, myself included, that if you have a lot of sex with a lot of different men, you're not very valuable, and most men don't want you, and you would have to adjust your expectations accordingly. So I guess the more I thought about it since the last time I was asked this question, for my own personal preference, like what would be the limit of body count before I would never get married to a woman ever again, I think it would be 5.
Okay.
I think that would be my limit for marriage would be 5. Now, again, this is completely preferential and just intuitive. I have no data to back this up whatsoever. Okay. It's just preference point. So okay. But I am not saying though that women who have a higher body count than that, or men who do, can no longer be virtuous, because that's insane to me. I'm just saying from my perspective.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I mean, 5 is the average body count of a woman in America, so you're basically like your answer is totally fine. Okay, so here's the follow-up question I have for both of you. So when it comes to the you don't want a girl with a high body count because she's more likely to divorce you. It's always the Institute for Family Studies study that's quoted, which shows that women who have a higher body count are more likely to get divorced, right? That's the study that everyone is operating off. Whether
lower happiness also is the other one.
No, well, there's multiple studies.
That's typically the main one that people talk about. So do you think when it comes to body count and risk of divorce, it's a correlation or causation? Meaning that a girl who has a body count of 30, she's more likely to have other traits that make her more likely to divorce the guy? Or is it the fact that literally like getting 30 dicks in a girl somehow changes her brain chemistry and she becomes more willing to divorce the guy, or changes her personality? So that's the question I have for both of you. Whoever wants to start first. Do you think it's a correlation, causation, or you think it's some combination of both? And if you think it's a combination, which one is more important?
Yeah, so environment and genes are going to play a part in everything for everybody. So if you come from, a lot of this has to do with upbringing, initial upbringing and environment, I think. So if you come from broken homes, things like this, you can see the correlate there between promiscuous behavior and non-promiscuous behavior, or what you would call body count, just from the roots of where you come from. The more fucked up your home life is, the more likely you are to engage in high-risk behavior, male or female. So I would say that the environmental factor is massive in this instance. However, if you're coming from a well-to-do, highly religious home who has good roots,
Andrew, you might misunderstand the question, or I think you're misunderstanding the question. I understand that, like a lot, like whether a girl is to have a high body count, that can be environmental and genetic, right? But that's not what I'm asking. I'm asking the link between divorce, like the chance of the woman divorcing you, and her body count. Do you think that is purely correlative? Or do you think that there's actually a causation thing here? Like when a girl goes out and fucks a bunch of dudes, that makes her more inclined just through that action to divorce her future husband.
Well, it's both. That's my point, is that it's both. Is that it's environmental and genetic. So there could be genetic indicators which would move a woman towards that type of thought process the more men she sleeps with, whereas other women could have genetic indicators where they would not. They could have what you would call like a very promiscuous lifestyle, give it all up and not give a shit about it. So there's going to be a genetic and environmental cause for both of these. So I don't think that it's purely causal, and there are other correlates there as well.
So you think it's a combination of correlation and causation, correct?
Yeah, I think it's a combination of both, absolutely. And I don't think that that's even something which is that heavily disputed.
I mean, I think you might be right, but I do think there's some people who disagree with you on that. Do you think one is like more prevalent than the other? Do you think it's more correlative or more causative?
I think it's more causative. I think that the more men a woman sleeps with, the less her inhibitions to continue to sleeping with men become. And the reason that I think this is because they also feel like they're broken goods or things like this. And it seems like once the genie's out of the bottle, they have less restraint on that behavior. I think of it like I do a crack addict, right? If he's 2 months into smoking crack, right? What's another 3 months, right? It's like once you're already in it, it seems like it's way harder to stop it. So I do think that there's a massive causation effect there. But I also would take those other factors into consideration.
Now, when you say it's more causative, do you mean like 60% or like 90%? Just a ballpark.
It could be as high as 95%. I don't know, but I would say, yeah, it's far past 60%. Yeah.
Okay. It's largely causative. All right, Sergio, same question.
Yeah. I really think that a woman the more people that she sleeps around, she's going to have that mentality of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I think that it's a habit, kind of like the drug addict. Like once you sit there and you've done this so many times, it's not going to feel, or not. I guess it's not. I don't really actually see it. I don't know. It's really hard. I kind of feel like Andrew on this one, where it's kind of more in the middle. It's just.
Well, Andrew's not in the middle. He feels it's largely causative, but there's an element of correlative, but he thinks it's mostly causative.
Yeah, and I would probably say exactly the same. I think that a woman that gets to that point, she's going to have 1 foot in and 1 foot out. It's going to be really hard for her to stay in the relationship because she's experienced so much other shit. It's going to be alpha widowed. I truly believe alpha widowed is a thing. Maybe it's not alpha widowed in the sense that there's one guy that she's always thinking about, but maybe she's like thinking about this guy that was the best kisser, this guy that was the best dick, this guy that took her on the Dubai vacation. I think that she can get up to a point where it's really hard for her to accept a normal lifestyle or a normal man, the higher that number goes up to, because she's going to be thinking of memories. It's the book, or it's the tree of knowledge. I think once they bite that fruit, and once they have that taste of what it's like to do those things, I think it's really hard for a woman to come back, to walk it back. That's why I have a very dead set, if she has a high body count, you shouldn't even try, because I don't think that there's anything that can fix that.
Okay, you guys have a pretty similar opinion on this. So here's my follow-up question. If it is causative or largely causative, as you guys say, why is there a dip after 2? So just for anyone who's not familiar with this, the way the chart looks is there's like 0, the risk of divorce is like 8%. Then we go to 1, it's like, I don't know, 14, 15%. And then when we go to 2, it jumps up to like 25, 27%. But here's something that really interesting happens. When we go through 3, 4, 5, it actually dips by like 5 or 6 percentage points. and doesn't actually come back to where it is at 2 until you get to like 9 or 10 body count, which is very interesting. So I guess my question,
I actually remember this coming up previously. So I went and I took a look, and it turns out that that's an older study. That's old data. And if you look and adjust it new data, it almost is precisely along the lines of body count. And I'll send that over to you via text message right now. So
yeah, if you can do that,
yeah. So there is an adjustment which has happened from there. So hang on. I do have a reference to this, but you got to give me a few minutes to pull it up here, Alex.
Okay, that's fine. We can move on to the next thing. I have a question actually for Sergio, so this will give you time to pull that up. I would actually be really curious to see that if you have that. So, all right, Sergio. So, do you think it's immoral for a man to have like 30 sexual partners?
I think it's not going to be healthy for him mentally. I think that men can still get messed up from sleeping with too many women. It'll get you in the habit of wanting to be that type of guy.
But is it immoral? Is it immoral?
We go back to what Andrew said, is immoral bad, bad is immoral, then yes, I think it is bad for you to sleep around too much. I think that we live in a world though where a lot of guys are going to run it up, like I've been saying a lot. It's going to happen anyways, so we have to find solutions around that.
Well, bad. Hang on, let's clarify. Bad is not immoral. So, like for example, Andrew smokes cigarettes, but that's not immoral. That's suboptimal, and that's bad for his health. And you can make the argument it's like bad for his like family in a way because he might be more prone to lung cancer. But there's nothing immoral, right? So we have to separate those. Immoral is like acting in a way that is immoral, like causes harm to society, causes harm to someone, right? So are you saying that it's just bad for men to have 30 sexual partners, or it's actually moral?
No, I just think it's just bad for him. I don't think it has anything to do with moral. I really believe that a guy can be in a marriage. I'm not condoning this. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do, but I think that if a guy cheats in a marriage, as long as he's not having an affair, like he goes and gets his dick sucked or something stupid like that, or like a girl comes on to him and does that, I don't think that it should destroy the family unit. I don't think it should destroy the nuclear family, because I think men and women are completely different. I think when women cheat, it's way worse than when a man cheats, as long as he's not having an affair. I think it's really bad if he has an affair. Like if he sits there and he's given a lot of resources.
Speaking of smoking cigarettes, Andrew's like, you reminded me. No,
That's
but
true.
But Sergio, but so I'm sorry, like I just want to.
No, it's not immoral. I don't think it's immoral. I just think it's bad for him.
Okay,
yeah, I don't think a guy having a high body count or even cheating can be immoral unless he's having an affair. That is definitely immoral. You're screwing over your wife completely having an affair.
And I think everyone here would agree with you on that. Obviously, it's immoral to cheat on your partner, but we're just talking purely about the body count. So you just think it's bad. It's not immoral. Then by that logic, is it immoral for a woman to have a 30 body count?
That's a good question. I think that it's definitely immoral for the woman to have a high body count because sex is different for women than it is for men. I think evolutionary psychology.
That's a contradiction, man.
Well, hey,
All right.
I'll get to it, Andrew. I was actually waiting the whole time.
I know, Alex, you're good at this one, so yeah, let's do it.
Well, so like, why is it immoral? Why is it not immoral for the man, but immoral for the woman? What specifically makes it immoral for the woman?
Because we're hardwired differently. Men and women's brains are literally different. Even 3 weeks after birth, where like you can see brain scans and see that men and women are completely different. Okay, so if we just can establish that we're not blank slaters, men and women are completely different, then we can also establish that possibly, high possibility that sex is completely different for us. I'm still not going to say, it's awesome for a guy to run up his count or anything like that. It's bad for both of us to run up our counts. But as far as immoral, when a woman sleeps around, it's definitely different. Diseases literally want to be in a cold, wet place like that vagina. Like it's not healthy. It's not good for society. There's nothing good about women sleeping around. Syphilis has literally destroyed community.
This is equivocation, though. You guys are actually talking past each other. Alex, he doesn't even understand what you're talking about when you say moral. He doesn't know what that means. And it's not a dunk on you, right?
Is that true?
Well, because you said moral is good, and then he's telling me that moral doesn't hurt others. So what do we want to say moral is, guys?
You can't really make these claims. You can't say, unless you had some grounding or something to base this on. What Alex is alluding to is he's saying, listen, you can't say it's moral for men to go fuck 30 women, but it's immoral for women to go have sex with 30 men. why would one be immoral and not the other? That's literally a contradiction.
Well, unless of course you can point out something specific about a woman having a high body count that makes it immoral, right?
Yes, but it would have to make it immoral. That I don't know how you'd ever bridge that gap.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out right now. So you said that women's brains are different. Everyone agrees with you on that. What specifically about a female's biology makes her having a high body count immoral?
She's hardwired to understand that she has to protect her vagina. She is hardwired to know this. And men are hardwired to want quantity. Women want the best quality. Men want quantity. It's always been that way throughout all of history. And the only thing that's tamed us over the last 6,000 years was religion. That's the only reason why we are tamed.
Bro, let me make it super easy. I can make this way easier.
Men only read it for a long time.
Hang on. I can make this way easier for you. Okay. You would agree with me that men are far more hardwired to murder than women, right?
Of course, violence, yes.
Right. Okay, so is it less moral then for a woman to kill a man or murder somebody than a man?
It's not less moral, but is there more situations where she's
not more? So it's not more or less immoral. So why in that case?
Well, no, actually, I take that back. It could be because the thing is, if she's doing it to protect herself. Because, like, if she stabs a guy who's beating the shit out of her,
murder. The word murder means unjustified killing. So if a man, if a man is unjustified in killing and a woman is unjustified in killing, they're both murderers. Is one more immoral or less immoral than the other? And I think the answer would be no, right?
Yeah, no.
Okay, so if that's true, how in the world could you just say because the natures of them are different, which you're reasoning out here? You're saying the nature of men is that they murder more. And the nature of women is they murder less, but you hold both of these moral standards as equivalent, right?
Yeah,
but then when it comes to the sexual morality, you hold them as unequivalent, which makes no fucking sense. That's not how morality works.
Actually, it makes perfect sense because it's called apples and oranges. They're two completely different fucking things. How can you compare murder to somebody sleeping around? Something that creates life, something that creates disease. It creates life. It does all types of other things. You're comparing that to somebody being murdered. When
people say apples and oranges, listen, when people say apples and oranges, you don't really understand what that reference is for. The reference of apples and oranges is to say that what do I compare an apple to in order to get you to understand what an apple is without an apple? I would say it's like an orange, right? That's an analogy. So when I'm using an analogy, nothing's ever going to map on equivalent to anything else ever. That's why it's an analogy. So when I'm
sometimes they're false equivalents. That's a false equivalent.
That's it. You could say something is a false equivalence, but in this particular case, I'm not saying that they're equivalent. I'm saying that the analogy for the moral standard is equivalent.
Let me give you a different analogy that might make more sense. Do you think it's immoral for people to be overweight?
No.
But we are hardwired as humans to be healthy and want to not be fat, right? Like
no, we're not. We're hardwired to be animals. We're monkeys, and we can get addicted to anything. We are not hardwired to be healthy at all. Is it best
if we can get addicted to anything, then that woman is just getting addicted to casual sex. So why is it immoral?
Because usually that casual sex probably came from trauma at a young. Women become hypersexual if they were raped or anything like that. That's the problem. Is like
so do men.
We could say that.
So do men.
That fat guy started eating a lot because he had a bad childhood too.
Bro, men do the same thing. If men are the victims of sexual molestation, especially younger in life, they also become or can become hyper promiscuous from that. Just like women, the nature is no different there.
Yeah, I just think that one is definitely more damaging to society than the other one. That's all I'm saying. I definitely think that a woman who sleeps around is going to ruin the reason why Adam and Eve. I know that you're a fundamentalist, so you take everything in the Bible literal. But
I'm not a fundamentalist. I don't even know what you don't know what you mean by that.
I'm just trolling you, bro. But the bottom line is that the whole story of Adam and Eve, the whole reason why that was even written in the Torah thousands of years ago, is because the analogy for if women fall to temptation, we both fall out of Eden. We both do. Men and women are both screwed if women sleep around. So it is just worse if women do it. They are supposed to be pure. Just like how men are strong, powerful.
Hang on. You can make the argument. You can make the argument that it's worse from a effect perspective if women have more casual sex, but that doesn't mean that it will be immoral, right? It's not good for society that like fucking 60% of our country is fat, but that doesn't mean it's immoral to eat fast food. I feel like I think we might be talking past each other, like Andrew said. But if you're saying that
you're not talking, you've just caught somebody in cognitive dissonance, Alex, and this is what it looks like. When somebody's suffering from cognitive dissonance, it always seems like they're making no sense and don't understand you. He does understand. He just can't reconcile this. He can't do it. And so,
isn't it funny that the GGN is much nicer than the religious person? But anyway, so that aside,
I'm not being mean. I'm just pointing out what's obvious to everybody.
Okay. Anyway, so Sergio, you said that what's it called? It's not immoral for someone to be obese, right? And then when I asked you, well, what's the difference? Why? You said, well, people can get addicted to anything, even fast food. I was like, okay, well, what if that girl got addicted to random dick? Oh, well, that came from trauma. So, but then I said after that, well, what if that fat person got addicted to fast food as a result of trauma he had in his childhood? Would then that be moral if the guy who eats McDonald's every day had some trauma in his childhood?
Yeah, no, I don't think it's the same because of it's a false equivalence to me. Like, I think that we're comparing things that are so drastically different.
What are we allowed to compare, Sergio?
It's so different than somebody who is overweight.
You can't get away with this bullshit. Listen, what are we allowed to ever compare? Can we make any comparison to
you can
anything?
Compare a woman to a car. I love those analogies.
Okay, so if we can, that's all we can do. We can, but they're different things, Sergio. I don't understand. They're different things, so we're not allowed to compare them. We're not allowed to make analogies based on things that are other things.
This is actually why there's such thing as the Bible, is because there's so much nuance to shit, and they had to go into detail and descriptives and prescriptions into heavy detail and nuance.
Well, that argument doesn't sway me because I don't believe in the Bible, so that's like more for an argument for Andrew. But can you explain to me why it's not it's a false equivalence?
Alex, you're honestly convincing me of the moral argument that there is nothing moral about it. It's just a personal view, though, for me, that I think that woman has bad morals if she does. I think that a guy who sleeps around, because we're hardwired that way, because for 100,000 years as Homo sapiens, we were hardwired to want quantity, and that women were
hardwired by your evolutionary standard to kill each other, and you think that's immoral. Yes. Don't you understand? Like it's a silly argument. You can't just say because the nature of a thing is that you do the thing, but you don't have to do the thing, then that means you must do the thing. That's insane. It makes no sense.
I'm just saying what is, like what is, like how the world is. That's all I'm saying.
It is not a requirement of the world that you fuck a woman and give her plan B the next day.